What if the very thing that makes you unique, that allows you to see the world with incredible clarity, is also the source of your deepest pain and isolation? Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, uncovered a truth far more unsettling than any mental illness. It wasn't about broken minds, but about extraordinary perception, a rare ability to see everything others miss, the micro-expressions, the hidden motives, the unspoken tensions in every room. He called this differentiated perception. And he found that these individuals, despite their profound insight, often ended up exhausted, isolated, and struggling to form normal relationships. Not because they were unstable, but because seeing everything came with a psychological cost no one understood. Today, we're diving deep into Jung's most dangerous discovery, exploring why this rare gift can either destroy you or transform you into something truly extraordinary. Jung's journey into this dangerous discovery began with a remarkable patient in 1913. She was an introverted intuitive, a rare personality type, who visited him during Jung's own profound psychological crisis after his split with Freud. This woman possessed an undifferentiated intuitive perception. Imagine walking into any room and instantly sensing the entire psychological atmosphere. Who's lying? Who's in pain? Who harbors secret resentments? Jung noted, the patient displays an extraordinary capacity for perceiving unconscious contents in others, but this faculty appears to cause her considerable distress rather than advantage. She couldn't do small talk because she saw through every social facade. Friendships crumbled because people felt too exposed. Jobs were impossible because her presence disrupted the unspoken collective agreements that let groups function. Jung wasn't seeing pathology. He was witnessing what happens when the unconscious becomes too conscious. When perception is so sharp it becomes a social liability. He described her ability to accurately detail others' private thoughts and hidden motivations as startlingly accurate. This wasn't delusion. It was consciousness so advanced it became, quite literally, socially dangerous. But Jung's discoveries became even more unsettling. This patient's extraordinary perception was so inexplicable that it led him to investigate what he termed participation mystique, a phenomenon where highly intuitive individuals are completely overwhelmed by absorbing the unconscious content of others. Jung's private notes from his Red Book period reveal, there are those among us whose psychic apparatus is so finely tuned that they absorb not merely conscious communications, but the entire unconscious atmosphere of their environment. Modern research by Dr. Elaine Aron on highly sensitive persons, or HSPs, actually validates these early observations, showing about 20% of people have heightened sensory and emotional sensitivity. But Jung pinpointed an even rarer group, the introverted intuitive type, roughly 1% of the population, who don't just feel deeply, but perceive unconscious patterns with alarming clarity. They possess a differentiated intuitive function, meaning their brains process not just obvious social cues, but repressed emotions, hidden motivations, and the collective shadow that groups tacitly agree to ignore. They see the depression behind a forced smile, sense the desperation beneath a confident presentation. As Jung put it, the danger lies not in the perception itself, but in the psychic isolation it creates. When one sees clearly what others cannot or will not see, one becomes a mirror that society cannot bear to look into. This creates the problem of the superior function, where your greatest strength becomes your heaviest burden, cutting you off from the very fabric of society. The real danger Jung uncovered wasn't just the perception itself, but the horrifying consequence. These highly perceptive individuals become prime targets for what Jung called shadow projection. When someone's unconscious shadow, the parts of themselves they deny or repress, is reflected back through another person's clear perception. The unconscious mind has two choices: integrate the shadow or attack the mirror. Jung saw this pattern play out repeatedly in his clinical work. The person who sees clearly gets blamed for the very problems they're simply observing. His intuitive patients constantly experience this. A gentle suggestion that someone seemed troubled would be met with an explosive accusation of being negative or creating drama. Expressing concern about obvious issues led to being labeled judgmental or making things up. Jung realized this wasn't coincidence.
What
It
if the
was a
very
deep
thing that makes you
psychological
unique,
defense.
that allows
As
you
he
to see
wrote
the
in
world with
Memories,
incredible clarity?
Dreams, Reflections, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But for most people, it's far easier to attack the person reflecting their shadow than to face what's being reflected. This creates the scapegoat phenomenon, where perceptive individuals become the designated problem in any group, not because they cause issues, but because they reveal the hidden ones. Jung observed, the bearer of superior perception becomes the repository for all that the group cannot consciously acknowledge about itself. This explains why these individuals don't just feel misunderstood, but systematically targeted by a force they can't rationally explain. But Jung's exploration led him to an even more disturbing realization. This overwhelming perception didn't manifest uniformly. He identified 4 distinct patterns within the introverted intuitive type, each processing unconscious content from others in a unique way. First, the feeling intuitive. These individuals don't just see psychological events, they feel them in their own bodies. They absorb others' emotions so completely, it's often impossible to tell where their feelings end and another's begin. Jung described them as living in a state of perpetual emotional contagion. Second, the thinking intuitive. These are the uncanny predictors. They see psychological patterns and forecast relationship failures, career disasters, or personal breakdowns months in advance, not through logic, but through unconscious pattern recognition. Jung noted their uncanny ability to perceive the logical conclusions of unconscious processes that others cannot yet see. Third, the sensation intuitive. These individuals sense the physical manifestations of psychological states. They might detect illness before symptoms, sense fatigue before it's acknowledged, or feel the bodily tension signaling emotional distress. Jung saw them as early warning systems for psychological and physical disease in their environment. Finally, the pure intuitive, the rarest type. They see everything but struggle to organize or express their perceptions coherently. Jung observed them living in a state of perpetual overwhelm, flooded with unconscious information, without the psychological structure to process it constructively. Understanding your specific pattern is vital, because each requires a different approach to what Jung called the integration challenge. Before we delve into integration, let's nail down why Jung considered this discovery so profoundly dangerous. He saw the devastating effects of unintegrated, undifferentiated perception firsthand, and concluded that seeing everything without proper psychological boundaries threatened both individual and collective well-being. He pinpointed 3 critical dangers. Danger 1. Collective unconscious disruption. Jung argued, the individual who perceives too clearly threatens the collective agreements upon which social cohesion depends. Think about it. Groups, families, even entire societies often function by unspoken agreements to ignore uncomfortable truths, shared illusions. When someone sees right through these, simply by existing authentically, they inadvertently become a destabilizing force. Danger 2. Psychological isolation. This is the problem of the superior function in action, your greatest strength becoming your greatest suffering. Jung wrote, the curse of consciousness is that it cannot be shared with those who do not possess it. You become an island of acute awareness in an ocean of unawareness. This isn't just social isolation. It's an existential rift, making you feel like you're living in a different reality. Danger 3. Identity dissolution. Most terrifyingly, Jung found that absorbing so much unconscious content from others can lead to a complete loss of your own authentic personality. You become so flooded with external psychological material that your inner world blurs, indistinguishable from what you're absorbing. This is participation mystique, where psychological boundaries dissolve, and you merge with the collective unconscious. The danger is not merely social exile, Jung warned, but psychological annihilation, the complete loss of individual identity in favor of collective possession. This is why Jung saw the integration of superior perception as not just important, but utterly urgent. Because these dangers were so real, Jung developed the individuation process, a systematic approach to not just survive, but thrive with superior perception. It's about maintaining your individual identity while building a conscious relationship with unconscious contents. Phase 1. Recognition and differentiation. Jung taught his patients to first recognize when they were absorbing psychological material that wasn't theirs. He called this conscious discrimination, the vital ability to tell the difference between your authentic inner experience and what you've unconsciously soaked up from the world. The first task, Jung wrote, is to establish what belongs to you and what belongs to others. Without this, individual development stalls. His practical advice: daily solitude. Spend time alone, letting absorbed material settle, so your own authentic psychological voice can emerge. Phase 2. Shadow integration. Jung made a profound link. People who see others' shadows clearly often do so because they haven't integrated their own. The more you deny your own capacity for deception, selfishness, or cruelty, the more disturbed you'll be seeing those very qualities in others. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, he wrote, but only if we have the courage to look inward rather than remaining focused outward. Shadow integration means acknowledging that you contain every human quality you observe. This doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a whole person, capable of seeing clearly without judgment. Phase 3. Conscious participation. The final phase involves conscious participation in the collective unconscious. This is the ability to engage with others' psychological content without being overwhelmed or losing your sense of self. The individuated person, Jung noted, can serve as a bridge between conscious and unconscious, helping to make the unconscious conscious in others without sacrificing their own psychological integrity. This requires developing psychological containers, the capacity to temporarily hold others' unconscious material, all while maintaining clear awareness that it's not your own. Jung recognized that superior perception holds a critical fork in the road: destruction or transformation. To understand this, he delved into historical figures, comparing those who integrated their gifts with those who succumbed. Take Friedrich Nietzsche, Geisttheorie. Jung was deeply influenced by his philosophy, yet observed how Nietzsche's devastating clarity in seeing through social, religious, and philosophical facades ultimately led to psychological collapse. Nietzsche, Jung noted, remained identified with his superior function rather than integrating it into a balanced personality. Instead of healing, he weaponized his insights against society. His isolation and eventual breakdown became a stark warning of what happens when perception remains unintegrated. You become consumed by what you see, rather than transformed by it. Now, consider Meister Eckhart, the medieval mystic Jung, extensively studied as a model of successful integration. Eckhart possessed mystical intuition, perceiving spiritual and psychological realities others couldn't. But unlike Nietzsche, Eckhart channeled his insights into compassionate service. Eckhart transformed his superior perception into wisdom that could nourish others without overwhelming them, Jung wrote. He spoke in ways that invited understanding, not resistance, a testament to conscious humility. One. Most profoundly, Jung documented his own harrowing struggle during his confrontation with the unconsciouses from 1913 to 1919, recorded in his Red Book. He admitted, "I was menaced by a psychosis and was saved only by my ability to understand what was happening to me through my work with patients." His superior perception nearly destroyed him until he consciously integrated these overwhelming experiences. His breakthrough, realizing these perceptions weren't pathological, but evolutionary, consciousness attempting to move beyond collective limitations. Given the profound isolation faced by highly perceptive individuals, Jung stressed the absolutely critical importance of finding the few who understand, others capable of engaging with differentiated consciousness, without defensiveness. He famously wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But this privilege cannot be realized in isolation. It requires witnessing by those capable of recognizing authenticity." Jung identified three essential types of relationships for the highly perceptive. Type 1. Fellow individuated persons. Jung said, the individuated person recognizes another individuated person immediately. These connections are instant, intense, a recognition of belonging to what he termed the conscious minority. They are rare, but vital for psychological survival, allowing you to be completely authentic without fear. Type 2. Those engaged in individuation. These are people actively pursuing their own inner work, therapy, or spiritual practice. They may not share your perception level, but they understand its value and can handle it without defensiveness. Those who have begun to know themselves, Jung observed, can bear to be known by others. Type 3. Natural containers. These individuals, while not necessarily highly perceptive themselves, possess a natural container function, the ability to hold complex psychological content without being overwhelmed. Often, they are mature individuals who've navigated significant life challenges. So how do you find them? Jung outlined a recognition process for identifying safe relationships. They ask genuine questions, not defensive ones. They can acknowledge their own contradictions without shame. They show psychological mindedness, a deep interest in inner reality. They maintain emotional stability when faced with uncomfortable truths, and they demonstrate genuine curiosity about consciousness. He also taught a gradual revelation protocol. Start with small, gentle observations. Watch their response. Are they defensive or curious? Gradually deepen the conversation based on their capacity. And always frame your insights as offerings, not pronouncements. Jung's emphasis: the goal isn't finding people who accept everything you see, but those who can engage with your perceptions as valuable contributions to understanding, rather than threats to their self-image. Jung believed that successfully integrating superior perception wasn't just about personal well-being. It was crucial for the very evolution of human consciousness. As he wrote in The Undiscovered Self, the individual has always been the carrier of the living spirit, the one who brings about the change in society. He saw integrated perceptive individuals as culture carriers, actively helping consciousness evolve. This transformation unfolds in 4 stages. Stage 1. Recognition without overwhelm. This is acknowledging your perceptive abilities without being crushed by them. Conscious acceptance of the superior function. Jung said, the beginning of wisdom is the recognition of what one actually is, not what one wishes to be or fears to be. Stage 2. Recognition without isolation. Here, you learn to use your perception constructively while building meaningful relationships. This is social individuation, becoming authentically yourself while staying connected. The individuated person, Jung noted, does not withdraw from the world but engages with it more consciously. Stage 3. Service without sacrifice. Your perception shifts from a burden to a gift you offer. This conscious participation means using your abilities in service of others without depleting yourself. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung asserted, is to become who you truly are, and then to offer that authentic self in service of the whole. Stage 4. Legacy without attachment. The final stage is the transcendent function, using your perception to contribute to collective consciousness evolution, free from attachment to recognition. The individuated person works for the future, not for personal recognition in the present. This integration transforms your perception into cultural medicine. Integrated perceptive individuals serve a vital evolutionary role. They see what collective consciousness isn't yet ready to acknowledge, preparing humanity for its next developmental steps. Jung warned, "What is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate." By integrating, you help make unconscious contents conscious before they manifest destructively in collective behavior. But beware, the path to integrating superior perception is fraught with pitfalls. Jung documented the most common ways people derail their own transformation. Pitfall 1. The inflation trap. This is when you become identified with your superior function, rather than consciously integrating it. Jung warned that the ego can inflate, believing it possesses absolute truth, leading to isolation and the prophet complex, thinking you must save everyone from unconsciousness. This manifests as preaching, judgment, and ultimately alienation. The moment one believes oneself to be the bearer of absolute truth, Jung observed, one has fallen into the trap of unconscious possession by the very forces one seeks to understand. Pitfall 2. The withdrawal justification. Some use their perception to rationalize complete withdrawal from society, convincing themselves others are too unconscious to engage with. Jung called this spiritual superiority, masquerading as wisdom. True individuation, he argued, demands engagement with the unconscious world, not escape. The hermit who withdraws from life has not transcended it, but has been defeated by it. Pitfall 3. The helper's high. Highly perceptive individuals can become addicted to being needed, defining themselves solely by their ability to see and help others, thus neglecting their own inner development. Jung cautioned, when perception becomes identity, the person disappears behind the function. This isn't individuation, it's the sacrifice of personality. Pitfall 4. The overwhelm return. Even after successful integration, stress, trauma, or life transitions can trigger regression. Psychological boundaries crumble, and you find yourself flooded again. Jung's crucial reminder, integration is not a permanent achievement, but a dynamic process requiring constant conscious attention. To combat these, Jung outlined ongoing maintenance practices. Regular solitude to distinguish your material from absorbed content. Conscious choice about when and with whom to engage your abilities. Ongoing shadow work to prevent projection. Connecting with others for reality checking, and creative expression as an outlet. As Jung put it, the integrated person does not achieve perfection, but learns to dance consciously with their own psychological complexity. Ultimately, Jung viewed highly perceptive individuals as serving an essential evolutionary function for human consciousness itself. He wrote, "The individual has always been the carrier of the living spirit, the one who brings about the change in society." He saw these individuals as consciousness pioneers, whose psychological development often precedes collective readiness. Historically, perceptive individuals have been advanced scouts for psychological territories humanity would eventually explore. What appears in the individual first as psychological insight, Jung stated, later manifests in the collective as cultural transformation. You are a laboratory for consciousness experiments benefiting the whole. In our modern era, Jung believed these pioneers might be sensing psychological patterns driving collective behavior, environmental and social unsustainability before it becomes obvious, spiritual possibilities beyond current frameworks. Technological implications others haven't considered. Collective shadow contents desperately needing integration. Jung's profound insight. The sensitive individual feels the collective problems first and most intensely. Their personal symptoms often reflect what the entire culture needs to address. Wandensen, Anaval, Alisedi, Arve, Apradai, Arasasid. Isdam Simon, Izin, Arrow, The key is service without martyrdom. Superior perception serves evolution best when consciously integrated, not unconsciously suffered. The goal isn't to be a martyr, but a bridge between what is and what's becoming. Jung believed the individuated person serves the collective not by sacrificing individuality, but by developing it so completely it becomes a gift to the whole. At the highest level, Jung observed the transcendent function, the ability to hold your perceptions lightly, seeing clearly without attachment, understanding deeply without the compulsion to fix everything, serving consciousness simply by embodying a more conscious way of being. Remember Jung's introverted, intuitive patient from 1913? The one who struggled so deeply with her undifferentiated perception. After 3 years immersed in Jung's individuation process, her life utterly transformed. She learned to distinguish her own psychological content from what she absorbed. She found fulfilling work as a counselor, where her unique perception became a profound asset, helping troubled individuals. She built authentic relationships with people who valued her insights rather than being threatened by them. Crucially, her superior perception shifted from a crushing curse to what Jung recognized as a gift, one demanding conscious development. Jung wrote of her transformation. The patient learned not to see less, but to see more wisely, not to perceive less deeply, but to engage more consciously with what she perceived. Her gift remained intact, but her relationship to it became integrated, no longer overwhelming. This, in essence, is Jung's most dangerous discovery. Some individuals are born with a consciousness that far exceeds collective readiness. This advanced perception will either destroy them through isolation and overwhelm, or when integrated, transform them into exactly what humanity needs for its psychological evolution. So if this resonates, understand this. Your superior perception isn't a malfunction. It's an advanced feature of consciousness. You're not broken because you see everything others miss. You're psychologically ahead of your time. The real question isn't whether to suppress your perception to fit in, but whether you'll develop the individuation skills to integrate it consciously. Jung's method offers a clear path, from dangerous isolation to conscious service, from overwhelming perception to integrated wisdom, from a psychological curse to an evolutionary contribution. You were born to see everything, not to suffer in silence, but to serve the evolution of consciousness. The world desperately needs your insights, but it needs them delivered with the integration, wisdom, and strategic awareness that transforms dangerous perception into cultural medicine. Your gift is not your burden. Your unconscious relationship to your gift is your burden. Learn to integrate it consciously, and you become exactly what Jung believed highly perceptive individuals were meant to be. Consciousness pioneers, preparing humanity for psychological developments that are inevitable but not yet obvious. The danger of seeing everything isn't that you see too much. It's that you might never learn to see with the integration and wisdom your profound gifts demand. If you recognize yourself in Jung's description of the highly perceptive individual, know this. You are part of a rare psychological type Jung believed was essential for the evolution of consciousness itself. Which of the 4 differentiated perceiver types resonated most with you? Let me know in the comments below. Your individuation journey connects you with others walking this powerful path. If you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into Jung's revolutionary discoveries about psychological development that transcends collective unconscious limitations. And if you're ready to explore more of Jung's insights into psychological types that don't fit conventional patterns, you absolutely need to check out my video on 7 Dangerous Carl Jung Psychology, Places That Destroy Your Mind, where I reveal the toxic psychological environments for highly sensitive and perceptive individuals, and Jung's strategies for protecting your consciousness. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next dimension.